everyone, welcome to BizTech Talk, the podcast where we dive deep into the minds of entrepreneurs, like yourself, and uncover the secrets behind their success and their business strategies. I'm your host, Jamal, and today, as always, we are going to educate, entertain you with the insightful and exciting stories of our guests. Before we jump into today's exciting conversation, I would like to note that this podcast is presented by Syncap-Mobi. Syncap-Mobi is a mobile and a web development agency in the UK, which will transform all your ideas into dynamic and stylish, user-friendly applications. So if you are looking to take your business digital, please, Syncap-Mobi is your go-to partner. Now let's get into the heart of today's episode. Welcome, Ama. She is a young and ambitious entrepreneur and the founder of a podcast channel called Nova&Boba. Yes, and she will share her insights and her journey into the business world and how she built her podcast. Thank you very much, Ama. We're very excited to hear your story. Please share your pivotal moments from your early life until here and what you've learned and whatever you think is important, would be important to our listeners.
Brilliant.
Yeah, great. Welcome again.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Jamal. Super excited. As Jamal mentioned, I'm the founder of Nova Tuition and a podcast called Nova&Boba. So to chat about my early life, I always loved business. Like, I'm not sure, have you watched The Apprentice? Yeah, it's like this UK show. Actually, I think it's in America too. It's called Shark Tank in America. They come and about 12 candidates come on this 12-week journey to win sort of like investment from Lord Sugar. And I remember being a child and absolutely loving that show. Like when they went through the challenges and fighting to get to the top spot, I just really, really loved entrepreneurship. And then when I got to secondary school, I was about 11 years old. And I think a really pivotal moment for me happened when I actually started to make money from a so-called business.
You were
11.
Wow.
Yeah, not a lot of money, but that's when I think in business you got to make a little bit and then you realize, wow, like, so basically I used to go to the tuck shop before school and I'd buy this chocolate called Galaxy Cookie Crumble. I used to love this chocolate. It was like £1 for like a big bar. So I got to school, I was actually eating it in science class, which you're not meant to be doing, but I was eating it. And then my friends saw me, they're like, oh, Amma, can we have some? And you know when your friends see you with food, they're gonna want some. So I said, okay, fine, I've only got a bit left, but you guys can have it. And one of my friends was like, I want what's left. If you don't give it to the other girl, I'll pay you for what you have left. And I remember thinking, you'll pay me for like this half-eating chocolate? And that's when I realized like the business was like kind of born. She was like, yeah, the idea came. And she was like, I'll give you £2 for it. And then the other friend was like, I'll give you £3. I'll give you £4. And I remember thinking, what is going on? So I can't remember what price we settled on in the end, but I remember thinking, this is business. Like, I'm going to go to the tuck shop again, buy more chocolate and sell it. And this went on for months, and eventually teachers started catching on and they were like, we know what you're doing. This is not good. You've got to stop. They really were like, you're not allowed to be doing this in school. You can't be carrying that much money on school grounds. So, you're going to have to shut it down, which I did. And then, to be fair, I didn't touch business until years later.
Yeah. It's really, really amazing to hear how when you were 11, you started your own business. Of course, every successful business person remembers when they earned this first money. Yeah, that was the most valuable and it was most expected, right?
Yeah.
So it must be a really great experience for you. And from that early age.
Yeah, you're never expecting it. And then I guess that's what business is. I guess that's what business is, exchanging value for, money. It feels like the core principle of it. But yeah, hopefully I'm trying to become more sophisticated in the ways, sort of generating revenue from business. But yeah, that was the first seed.
That's great. So how about your second, like maybe more serious attempt for business? Like, was it after school, or when did you decide that you want to go into business, like for long term, for long run?
Yeah. So to be fair, I didn't decide to go into business. When I was at university, I was a maths and chemistry tutor. And I saw that my students had this problem with not only their maths learning and like science learning, but with their sort of their discipline, their focus, their resilience. Like, it was a mixture of these skills that they hadn't developed, which was meaning they were performing badly in maths. I don't know if that makes sense, but because they were lacking resilience, because they were lacking confidence, they couldn't do well in their maths. And actually, I realized they needed to solve their confidence before they could actually excel in their exams. So then I started the tutoring company, and I think I didn't mean to start a business. It just came out of a problem of seeing these students who didn't have these skills and wanting to build like an education platform to help them develop the skills. So that's how the tutoring company was born. I started getting loads of inquiries, and then I was thinking, this was very difficult at the time, but I remember I was getting too many inquiries, and I was thinking, if I get another tutor and I match him with the parent who's requesting me, maybe I could then take a commission of the tutoring class. And I remember initially it felt like theft. Do you know what I mean? Like, you felt like you were taking money for like not doing much, and it took a lot of confidence to do it with the first person. And then when you do it with the first person, then you could do it with the second, the third, the fourth, and it grew to like 50 tutors. Yeah. This was in the pandemic. Yeah, so I graduated in 2019, and then the pandemic hit, and then in about two and a half years we grew to 50 tutors. Yeah, so it was a long process, and I'm still really good friends with the first tutor, and we were like at a networking event that I organized, and I was like, oh, did you ever know you were the first tutor? You're the first one that responded to my LinkedIn asking, could you teach maths? And yeah, it was just really funny that like it can just start from one sort of person.
All right, so you understood that getting commissions is not theft. Yeah, right.
I know it's not theft.
Because because you're giving people something that they would value and something useful, and in return you are getting paid for your inputs.
Yes.
Nice. But it's really great that you somehow found this problem that needed to be solved. I guess this is the best way to start any business, right?
A problem.
Problem to look out for a problem and try and find a solution. And that's when the business goes by itself. Like, naturally it starts growing because it really provide some kind of solution.
Yeah.
How did your business go? Like, you achieved until up to 50 tutors, and how did you find those tutors, and what was your strategy to expand?
Yeah, so the strategy to expand was messaging loads of tutors on LinkedIn. That was a really great strategy. So anyone we saw with a previous tutoring experience, we would message and reach out to them. And what else did we do? We also reached out into university society groups and things like that. So the thing with our platform, we were meant to be these sort of mentors for students. So we had university student tutors who were quite close in age with the tutees, the children. So it meant that they related to them, they had just finished their exams, so they really knew the up-to-date tips on how to revise. So that's how we grew. We had Facebook ads for parents. We also had a lot of word of mouth with parents as well. Yeah, and that's how we grew. And because of the pandemic, a lot of parents were looking for online tutoring. So it was quite organic, our growth.
Yeah, that's great. Well, pandemic in general, I guess, it was a really good time for digitalization. So did you build a software platform for this, or was it more, managed by third-party software?
This was a mistake we made. So we went to a development agency to build a platform, but we went to a bad one. Make sure choosing the right partner is very important. And because we were really strapped for cash, I just was the cheapest person. I was that's it. I'm going for them. But obviously cheap, like the results weren't good, and that was months and months and months of trying to build this platform out that essentially we essentially had to all go throw away. We eventually got all our money back for it because it was a really shoddy job, but yeah, if anyone's got my tip to anyone, make sure you look into that properly. So that was a really big mistake. It cost us a lot of time and a lot of money, and then from then on we started using third parties, and then it was always our ambition to then make another platform, but we never got round to doing it.
Oh, I see. So you didn't build the platform, you didn't finish the platform. So except for choosing a wrong partner, a wrong development partner, what do you think you should have done differently so that it would be successful?
Yeah, in hindsight, I think having someone on your team that knows how to code, because I was the only founder on the team and had no coding experience. First of all, I should have learnt some experience because I would have been able to see what was wrong. Even though I couldn't code, maybe I could have upskilled myself and reviewed it properly. Yeah, which I didn't. And I thought,
Or you could have have a partner, right?
Precisely. Could have made sure reached out to co-founders who had technical experience, because I think they wouldn't have been blindsided by the things this development agency was telling me. But because I was so a bit naive and had no idea what was going on, I was like, yeah, that sounds fine. And obviously it wasn't fine.
Yeah, there are a lot of hidden stones, probably I would say. Hidden not problems, challenges in development. If you don't have experience in working with development team, or experience in working with different kind of team, and it's completely new to you because you studied chemistry tutoring, right? Chemistry teach.
I just studied.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you studied chemistry, which is so far from NIT. So you say that you were downfall, or started from deciding to build this platform with the wrong partner. Okay.
Bad mistake.
Oh,
and
I
it
see.
took us a long time to even get our money back. It was just all taken away from. Yeah.
I see. You gave all your cash to that part. A lot of it. Yeah, a lot of it. Of course. Yeah. Development of any software is not cheap.
It's not cheap.
Yeah, it's not cheap, especially if you don't have any investment.
Exactly. Yeah. So first of all, didn't have any investment. I don't think you need investment to start, but it's helpful.
Yeah.
I think, as you were mentioning, finding a partner that is technical is probably quite important if you're going to build a technology business.
Okay, that's
I think
great.
some people have built it without, like the Calendly founder.
Yeah.
I think it's quite important to have someone on your team who's quite skilled.
All right, yeah, that's great, I guess. That's really good advice, I would say. And so how are things now? I know that you have this great channel. Please tell me, first of all, what does the name mean? How did you come up with that name? And how this idea was born? I mean, from chemistry to podcast, to business podcast, it's really completely different journeys.
Yeah, and that's what I love about life. I would have never predicted going, even building a business now, starting a podcast. So long story short, the first company, Nova Tuition, it died a slow death. So picked up really well in the pandemic, loads of digital learning. Parents were willing to invest in their children because a lot of schools were closed. But then after the pandemic, we really struggled to get new customers. And the customers we were getting, the amount of commission we could take on lessons wasn't enough to hire someone else to join the team. It became quite difficult to scale and attract new customers. So I decided, you know what, we've had a really great run with the business, but I think we should cut our losses. The market's not great, and I was thinking about starting something else. So that is actually how the podcast was born. So I was talking to other early stage founders about their businesses, and I was wondering if they had any advice for me to continue running Nova, or Nova Tuition, or stopping it completely. And I found the advice from other early stage entrepreneurs super helpful, because they were in the same journey as me, 1 or 2 steps ahead. I'd watched Stephen Bartlett's podcast. I think we were mentioning this, but I love his podcast, but all the entrepreneurs are so late stage and talk about their failures. Millionaires, billionaires, some of them, and being quite far away from that, I kind of wanted someone as a mentor who was a bit closer and sort of experience and an age and a bit more relatable. So yeah, I started having these conversations with friends and other people in my network. And that's when the Nova&Boba podcast was born. So Nova means like young bright star. And Boba, I just really like drinking bubble tea. And it kind of rhymes with Nova. So it's a bit silly, but we really enjoy it.
Great. I think, there are a lot of information about business from these huge entrepreneurs on the internet. You can find it everywhere. But like somebody who could tell you right now what to do, what they are doing, and what to do or not to do is very rare. You either have to find like a mentor, which is not always possible. You may not have the network. Exactly. People are busy, and the mentoring takes time, and not everybody is open to that. And Nova&Boba could give a lot of insights and practical knowledge to listeners.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, that's great. So, who are your guests, of course, and what listeners would take? What would be the most valuable things that listeners would take from a podcast?
Yeah, brilliant. So we have a lot of new founders who are on the journey, and their sort of ambition is to help educate like students on if they want to start a business or they want to even grow their business. But we're all in this sort of early stage phase of the business. And the guests just have so much exuberance, and there's a great sense of naivety. A lot of time, if you know too much about an industry or you know too much about what it takes to start a business, it's actually not helpful. I don't know if that makes sense. Like in the terms of
you may not be too enthusiastic about it.
Yeah, because you would know how hard it is. Yes. But a lot of our guests are, really pioneering some amazing, innovative technologies. Like we have a recent guy on our podcast who's building an AI robotic bubble tea making machine. But because he's like, when he was walking to uni, he saw how many queues were outside in bubble tea shops. He was thinking like, where the world's going, how can I use AI and what people like, which is bubble tea, to make drinks cheaper for people? So his drinks are like half the price of bubble tea. And I just think that though everyone can start a business, I think some of young people are less encouraged to start business. They're encouraged to get jobs after uni. But I think real innovation can be driven by young people starting businesses. And that's what we discuss on the podcast. We want to encourage more and more sort of young people to have a go at entrepreneurship. Even if it fails, it's fine. You've still got time to find something.
Yeah, you touched this very, important point that innovation comes from entrepreneurship, actually. Yeah, everything that we wear, everything around us was possible thanks to entrepreneurship. Somebody said, okay, I'm going to produce this kind of notebooks, and all of this, like these iPhones, everything, it's the result of some crazy guy who believed that they could produce something.
It's a different future.
Yeah, exactly. That's nice. And I guess you said that young people with their bright eyes probably, and as you said, with naivete, could come up with completely different and new innovations that wouldn't come to the minds of more experienced entrepreneurs, because they have different mindset maybe.
I think for sure everyone can start a business and should start a business. It's just that when I was at after uni, everyone was like, oh, get a full-time job, you don't have enough experience to run a business. And to be fair, even though the business did fail in the end, it was still a learning curve that I appreciated, and I didn't think people should be discouraged if they've got an idea to pursue it. And even with all the guests on my podcast, they're building really world-changing things. And as you mentioned, everything around us is the result of someone who was a bit crazy and took a chance on entrepreneurship.
Exactly. Actually, you said that you started a business, but it failed. But it was a learning curve. And in my experience also, I worked in a normal job for a corporate companies for over 5 years, I guess. And for the last 3 years, I've been in the business of running mobile and web application development agency. And I would say that last 3 years, I got so much experience that wouldn't even compete with those over 5 years of my life. And I definitely would say that this last 3 years have changed me. Like, I grew in these last 3 years, and I'm not discouraging people who look for jobs, and of course, because they are also a huge part, of course, a huge part of this society, and without them, nothing would be possible again. However, I guess the experience from running a business, from starting a business, doesn't compare to anything else, because you have to learn every day. Something new comes up, you feel like, okay, today is okay, I got this, and next day something new comes up that you have to learn again.
You're always struggling to stay afloat.
Exactly.
You've got to learn every bit about the business, especially if you don't have a big team.
Yeah, right, that's right. About learning. So what do you think are the most valuable lessons that you took from your Nova Tuition business?
Yeah. Very good question. What did I learn? I'd say the main thing was being resilient, because I'm sure as you run your business, you know that you can be knocked back again and again and again in terms of maybe people not liking the service, people not liking the product, tutors being, upset, parents being upset, like there's being rejected for investment, dealing with developers. Every time you get knocked back and knocked back and knocked back, and it really can wear on your... Yeah, so many, being rejected all the time, it wears on your self-esteem. But I think what someone mentioned was that every no is a closer to you getting to a yes. And never let anyone rejecting you sort of affect your sort of self-confidence and self-esteem. Like, you've got to have this really strong inner belief in what you're doing, that even though you get knocked, that you can always get back up. And I'd say the second thing is that I was really embarrassed to put my business out there. I'm not sure if you've ever been embarrassed, like, people might laugh, or people might,
Of course.
Yeah.
We're still in that way. For example, whenever we think that we should share something, it feels like, oh, who am I? Who are we to share this? With this podcast too, we started just a month ago, but we've been thinking about for quite a while now, but we didn't have this, belief or confidence to start this, and who is going to listen to us? I mean, who would listen to us? This is kind of a feeling, but I don't know. I guess you just need to ignore this feeling, right?
Ignore it. And I've also found that people don't care as much in a good way as you think. Like, you kind of have this spotlight effect, thinking that people really care about what you do. People are watching your failures. Yeah, everyone thinks about me. People are going to know if I did that podcast and it didn't work. But actually, everyone's just living their own life. So be bold, be confident, because no one really cares.
Yeah, that's great. That's great advice, really. And well, I guess in terms of, again, learning, I would say, what was your most memorable story or memory where you got this incredible insights? Or, for example, before building this channel, maybe you have this, story, or not just story, just I guess events that gave you good new ideas. Like particular stories, maybe.
So a particular event, story that's memorable to me is when we're building the podcast. It's called the Nova&Boba podcast, and alongside it we have a Nova&Boba community, which is for tech founders and aspiring founders. And I remember the first time I was going to organize a community event. It was meant to be outside in the picnic. I asked people to come, and a lot of people said they were busy and things like that, and I was really anxious about bringing people to a space. And so I was asking a few people. A lot of people said no, but actually the people that did say yes, there was about 6 of us, and it was raining in London, so we couldn't go out to the picnic, so we all went to sit in a restaurant, and there was 6 of us, all founders, aspiring young tech founders, talking over a meal. And I just remember thinking, I was so scared of bringing people together, and it was completely fine. We had a really great time. And then fast forward some months later, 8 months later, we actually had an event that had 120 people there. So I remember just thinking, imagine if you had never started because I almost cancelled the event when it was raining, people didn't want to come. And I was like, imagine if you'd never stuck to it and just got it out there and, had that community meal, you would have never eventually got to the 120 person event some months later. And yeah, it just always sticks out to me because things can start so small, you just don't know where they're going to go. And yeah, that's a really great memory for me. Yeah.
It's really impressive. Some months ago, from 6 people to 120. Wow, that's great. Actually, we always see in LinkedIn or other platforms people sharing their success stories, and we see them. They already built something and they already got to something, but it wasn't like that from day one.
It wasn't.
Yeah, right. Everybody had to go through some stage where they had to build up to that. Yeah. And starting small shouldn't be embarrassing or shouldn't be discouraging. Yeah,
I was almost too embarrassed, as I mentioned before, to put it on because I was like, it's just so few people, they're going to think this is rubbish, and it never is. Beautiful things can start small, and we had such a great time, and it's still, yeah.
That's great, really. Really amazing story, actually. From 6 people to 120, it's really impressive. And I'm sure that you're going to grow to 200, 500 and thousands of... Yeah. And it is going up to there because, in trajectory, when you see, okay, you got to 120. Now, I guess in no time, you will get to 200 and over.
Yeah. I hope so. Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. What would be your last words to the listeners? And I guess you can share a little more about your guests too, so that our listeners would tune in and listen to your podcast.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So yeah, we are releasing new episodes on our YouTube channel, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And yeah, it's called Nova&Boba. We have some really, really exciting guests coming up. One guy building an AI robotic sort of human people that make food. He's building a robotic chef. So it's a restaurant with no human servers, which I think is pioneering. So tune in for that. We really delve into the reality of starting and running a business. So we hear about co-founder split ups, where to raise investment, anything that is all sugar coated on LinkedIn. We don't believe in sugarcoating anything. Our entrepreneurs are here to share the real deal and the real story. So yeah, please subscribe and check us out. And the last words I would have is, if anyone's listening and wants to start a business, they've seen a problem that they want to solve, honestly, just go for it. The best time in your life is now, and you might not feel confident, you might never feel ready, but that's the beauty of it. You only get ready by doing the thing. So yeah, take a chance on your life because you're brilliant.
Oh, that's great. And for your Nova&Boba vision, where do you see this podcast in 5 years? Maybe in a year, let's start in a year, and in 5 years, do you think, are you enjoying in general the podcast, and do you think you're going to do it for a long run?
Yeah, I really love the podcast. I love talking to innovative, inspiring people. So hopefully this will be the long-term journey. And in a year, we would really love to grow the community, help more students in our community start businesses, more young people start businesses. And yeah, we would love to, I'm going to speak it into existence. In a year, we would love 10K subscribers on our YouTube channel. And in 5 years, we would love to be this platform for Gen Z early stage entrepreneurship. So I'm not sure, have you heard of Morning Brew? Morning Brew. It's a news media outlet and it's got a fun way to share business insights and stories. So we would love to just grow from the podcast and actually become a news media outlet with different podcasts on our platform, different news, different blogs. We just want to be this all-encompassing media outlet for Gen Z early stage entrepreneurship.
Yeah, thank you. And hopefully we will be with you and see your podcast growing and your listeners growing and transitioning to news media outlet. And I think it's a great vision and great strategy, even great aspirations for your podcast. And as long as our listeners find it very useful. I'm sure it's gonna grow and there will be no stop to it. Yeah. And thank you, Amma, for such an entertaining conversation. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your great experiences and your insights and your valuable advices. And thank you, guys, for tuning in. Thank you all. Please don't forget to check out Amma's podcast, Nova&Boba, where you will find really practical and relevant knowledge and insight for your startup or any business, because her guests, as she said, share their experiences that they are doing at the moment right now, which would be the most relevant. And of course, don't forget to check out Syncap Mobi. Yeah, your go-to partner, a digital partner.
They may not be cheap, but better than worth it.
You heard from Amma. Her experience was not great, so please, your go-to partner Syncap Mobi will transition your digital ideas into great applications. And of course, please remember to follow our podcast channel BizTech Talk on your favorite platforms, so that you wouldn't miss our next episodes, because we also have great entrepreneurs like Amma lined up to our show, and you wouldn't want to miss it. And I guess this is it for today. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you.
Yeah. I just want to say I've really enjoyed being on BizTech Talks. Thank you so much for being an incredible host. The food, the drink was delicious, and yeah, you've really been so hospitable. Thank you.
This is it for today, and see you in our upcoming episode. Bye.